watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Hello, and welcome to GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk. I'm your host, Shiloh Sanders. Each week, we discuss topics that are important to our diverse community. March is Women's History Month, a time where we celebrate several women who remade history by living her story. As we celebrate contributions from women from the past and present, we want to highlight GHS alumni who have joined the ranks of influential women who have made significant impact in their respective fields. Unfortunately, our alumni could not join us in the studio today, but they will join us virtually from Florida, Atlanta, and New York. Joining me to tell her story is author, singer, and songwriter Stephanie Forshee. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So you wear many hats as a journalist and an author. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So my day job is as a journalist. I currently work as the finance editor at LinkedIn News, and any job that I've had, I've worked for the Financial Times. I've worked for a few business journals, and any of the full-time journalism jobs that I've had, I've always had side projects going on. And so one of those projects is, writing books. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about. And usually that's something that is being worked on nights and weekends. But my day job is as a business journalist and has been for about 14 years.
That's awesome. So how did you get to this point in your career?
Well, I started out at a very, very, very tiny paper in California in 2010, and it was called the Daily Independent in Ridgecrest, California, and I have just really worked my way up from there. So I initially went to school for musical theater, and somehow made the transition to journalism, largely because that was something, at Germantown, I was part of both the TV station and theater. And so when I went to college, I was undecided on which one I wanted to major in. And I pursued musical theater at first, but decided to try out journalism. And that has been what has stuck with me and worked for me.
So can you tell me about your book, Hidden Gems, that's about Margaret Getchell-LaForge?
Sure. So the first book in the series is about Margaret Getchell-LaForge. It's called Hidden Gems for Kids, and it's a series about unsung women in business. And so I just wanted to tell these stories and share them with children. There are a lot of biographies out there for kids about politicians and people in the arts and entertainment, but there were very few about women in business. And so I wanted to have these stories out there so that kids could see themselves as, picture themselves as maybe a CEO one day, or, the vice president of a company or manager of a store, whatever it is, that, that they could see themselves as a business person as well.
So like you said, there's not many books that talk about women in their businesses. Before hearing about your book, I didn't know who Miss Margaret was. So how did you first discover her?
Sure. So at the beginning of the pandemic, I was doing a lot of reading. And as a business journalist, I read about a lot of businesses. So I was reading a book about Macy's and its history. And there's this, whole book about how Macy's came to be. And there are just about 3 pages tucked in there about Margaret Getchell. And so that's how I first discovered her. And it said that she was America's first female retail executive. And so when I first started, to search for her online, I figured that I would come up with a lot of information, but unfortunately there was not a lot out there about her. And so I have been kind of doing that work for the past 3 to 4 years.
So what other books about underrepresented women have you written?
So far, the next book that will be out is about Maggie Lena Walker, and she is America's first Black female president of a bank. And she started a bank in 1903. It was called St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank, and she was just an amazing woman that, just through perseverance, was able to overcome a lot of obstacles and barriers and create this bank as well as other businesses. She created a newspaper and even a department store as well. So she's the next person that I will be featuring. And then there will be another book about Anna Sutherland Bissell, who was America's first female CEO. So before Bissell vacuums, there were carpet sweepers that people used. And so that was back in the 1870s. And so she and her husband, they worked together to create the first widely used carpet sweeper, which was very big and helpful back then.
I look forward to hearing about these wonderful books. So what has been the response from readers in the audience to your books that you've written?
It's been wonderful. So far I decided for this book project, I decided to run a Kickstarter instead of going through the traditionally published route. And so, the Kickstarter I ran in 2022, that was successful. And so, I've just received a lot of great feedback and press so far, and people this month for Women's History Month inviting me to speak, and I'll be talking to employees at Macy's this month. So yeah, it's resonated with a lot of people so far, this first book. So I'm excited for the future books to do the same.
So are there other ways that you use your voice to speak about the importance of Women's History Month?
Sure. So as a journalist, I'm always, it's great that we do have Women's History Month, and it's something that I'm always, at least this month, trying to focus on something interesting. So even in my newsletter at LinkedIn, it goes to finance professionals. I have a section in there called History Lesson, and even beyond Women's History Month, I try to educate people about as many women and underrepresented voices as I can through that. So that's something that I've done. And this month we've asked a lot of finance professionals to weigh in this week for International Women's Day. And yeah, those are just a couple of examples of ways that I try to highlight women's voices, and especially those that came before us.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Stephanie, for joining me today and talking about your wonderful books.
Thank you so much for having me.
Don't leave yet. Coming up, we'll talk with an alumna who founded her very own digital marketing agency that helps ensure other companies are properly using AI technology.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
I'm your moderator, Brandon Sewell, coming to you live from the campus of Germantown High School.
So GHS-TV tries to model a real working station.
I really thought it was cool when I first started a studio and all the opportunities that it was able to provide for me.
That would be 36 out of 36.
It's a rigorous class that demands a lot from students.
At times you are going to be thrown into the fire to where you're just going to have to figure it out yourself.
Which is really great because then we gain more knowledge. Our teachers will give us how to start, but then we're left to make up the whole entire process.
It just seems to me it's not enough space in the beginning. If it's not, let's figure out what we can do.
They can be a producer, they can be a director, They can work graphics and learn audio. They can go out and shoot field reports.
Akila, back to you.
And it's a challenge to throw them into the environment and say, here's a camera, go out and record this interview and some B-roll. But those are the challenges that grow students to do bigger projects.
Welcome to Red Devil Newsbeat.
In GHS-TV, we have a variety of shows. We have Crosstalk.
Hello and welcome to a new season of GHS-TV's award-winning talk show, Crosstalk.
We have Insider, which is all about Germantown.
Welcome to GHS Insider, the show that's all about the G.
Cut to One and Q Talent.
Wake up, Germantown. It's Wednesday, April 5th. I'm Colin Ewing.
Some things that I've learned from this class is that how to work as a team.
We learn how to communicate better with people.
Something I'll take with me from in the future is their slogan, check, double check, and check again.
There's so many different things you can do here. I would say take risks. Push yourself further than you think you can go, and we will help guide you there.
Go Red Devils!
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. I'm Shiloh Sanders. As technology advances, society increasingly relies on artificial intelligence to address our challenges. Coincidentally, many companies still lack the knowledge and expertise to use this groundbreaking technology to their advantage. A GHS alumna decided to bridge this gap. Joining me from Florida is CEO and founder of Cherrytop, Michelle Hayes Uhfelder. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's really cool to have a former Crosstalk host on Crosstalk again.
I know. I did this too. I sat right there. I did your job. It's not as easy as it looks.
Yes.
It's really not.
So before we get into Cherrytop, can you tell me, how did you get to this point in your career?
Right. So I graduated from Germantown High School in 2001. And from there, I went on to Southern Illinois Universities, where I did bachelor's and master's work. And I really thought I was going to be, my goal was to be a general manager of a television station. That's really what I wanted to do. And I started doing things that would put me in line with that. I did internships at Fox, which Germantown helped me get my foundation at the high school did. And then I went on and I realized the tools that I learned at Germantown High School under Mr. Mazur and Mr. Bluestein at the time really taught me how to figure out what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And I realized I was much more effective in a capacity of marketing and public relations and working with people kind of behind the scenes. And so I used all the skills that I got. I was actually the general manager of the studio as well, which was a huge honor. And from there, I went on and took public relations and went into a global firm after I did a stint at National Public Radio. And I learned there working with global clients. I worked with Walmart, Starbucks, pretty much a lot of the big players in the world, that it's really possible to do it if you have the skill set and you have that comfortable foundation, which I had. And so I was able to go from there and work in consulting positions and work for different companies. I've worked with companies from mom and pop shops, I say, like my beloved mom and pop shops, all the way to, global companies. And so I decided to start Cherrytop, which is a marketing and PR firm, after I realized there was this gap in the marketplace, really. We had the large PR and marketing firms, which were doing a great job in serving those global needs. And then you had smaller firms, which were really talking to the really itty bitty places, but that mid place with the experience level that I had was really not there. And so I took some time. I went and educated myself completely on AI. I got certified by Cornell, and I'm in a program right now at Stanford. I'm a big believer that you're always a student. And from there, I kept going and I opened up Cherrytop, and I'm able to help my clients really meet that need in between with that knowledge, expertise, and that experience, which not a lot of places can provide. I'm realizing. So it's a lot of fun, but it all started back at Germantown High School.
Yes. So you talked about when you found out about AI, but how did you decide you wanted to focus and build a company around artificial intelligence?
Right. So, I mean, AI has been this word tossed around for a really long time. And I think we've all been watching and waiting and seeing what it'll do. But in the last, I'd say 2 years, it's really, really exploded. And I knew that the industry was changing. Everything's changing. I mean, how we operate, how everyone does their job is going to be impacted by AI at some point. And so you either have to get on or you get off. And I have respect for people who do it and say, it's not for me. But the people that I want to work with are the people who go, you know what, how can I utilize this better? How can I make my company better, stronger, faster? My employees, how can I give them an edge, an advantage? And how can I navigate using those tools in a better way? And sometimes, the obvious solution is not like, let's go AI hog wild. I actually wrote an article recently for CMS Wire, which has an audience of about 5 million. And the article is about how you really have to know what your company is, who you are, before you actually launch into AI. Because if you do that, you might end up picking something that's completely off, way too far when you really needed a human-centric element. So we need to not lose our essence as well. So I think people who have an experience level navigating this and also have worked with all sizes of companies can really help as we enter this new phase of AI.
So Cherrytop is Northwest Florida's first women-owned AI marketing firm. What does this recognition mean to you?
Well, it means, first of all, that there's not a lot of women in technology, which is a little bit sad because I think it's something that you can do. It's not anything that's isolated either to just being an engineer or just being in mechanics or whatever you think technology is in computer science. We all take technology in with us wherever we go. I mean, we're all on our phones all the time. We're all on our computers. So I believe everyone needs to become an expert within their field, within that technology that's being offered. And so I would say that my big thing with Cherrytop is helping people navigate that really. But my core is that I think women should be just as involved in AI discussions and just as involved in how we operate within that world. And I'd like to help elevate women. I know I've had so many women help me and that are so excited. But there is also a little bit of fear because it's a very male-dominated field when you look down the technology. When I look at the people I'm working with and who are speaking up in the tech field right now, it is predominantly male-dominated. But, we're seeing like in law schools now, there's more females that are in law school right now than males. But at one point, not too long ago, it was just a couple women that were in those law school classes. So we are going to see this balance happen. But I'd like to be a part of that conversation.
So you mentioned and you said that usually technology is a male-dominated field. What are some of the challenges that you faced when you first started working in the technology marketing field?
Oh, wow. Yes. I think educating yourself, first of all, is the most important thing. And then the second thing is that there's always something new coming out. There's always a new breakthrough happening almost seemingly every day, which is tricky to how you take in information, how you process it, and how you're actually able to apply that to your business and to your clients. So how I work within that, my biggest challenges, I would say, are really the volume of information and the speed of change in which things are happening with AI. So.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today and telling us about the bridge between women and men in dominated fields.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we will speak with a woman who has transitioned from GHS-TV to a news producer in one of the biggest markets in the U.S.
Cut to one and cue talent.
The GHS Fine Arts Department
is composed of 6 different disciplines, including instrumental music, which is both band and the strings or orchestra.
My belief is that band is the life of the school. If the band's not fun, the school's not fun.
There's choral music with a variety of different levels for our students, from women's choir, an a cappella group.
So choir is an excellent opportunity for you to engage in the music making process and to create relationships and bonds with your fellow classmates.
We have our theater program, which includes acting and tech theater.
It'll teach you how to be a better communicator, it'll teach you how to work with people better, and it'll teach you how to get outside your comfort zone.
We have GHS-TV and the intro classes that go into GHS-TV.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome to GHS Insider, the show that's all about the G.
So GHS-TV tries to model a real working station.
And we have a visual arts program that goes up into AP courses and also includes IB level.
I think the arts are really important because they provide students with that safe space where they can express themselves, they can be who they really want to be.
The specificity of what is taught and required to be learned here in this department is so particular that they're going away with abilities and skills that other schools aren't teaching.
You're watching the award-winning GHS-TV, a nationally recognized student television station.
Welcome back to Crosstalk. Today, we are spotlighting influential women to highlight Women's History Month. Delivering news to people is essential to keeping everyone informed and active in their communities. Joining me today is Marquesha Garmon-Wilson, a GHS graduate who went on to work at Fox 5 in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
So as a production student, I can guess why you went into broadcasting and production. Can you tell me how did you start?
So of course I started at Germantown High School. I was a producer on Wake Up Germantown. I also did Inside the News, which is, I don't think you guys no longer do that anymore. But I did a few shows back in the day. And it just honestly became a passion of mine. It was something that was fun, it was interesting, and so I decided to go to college for it. And so I went on to Middle Tennessee State University. That's where I graduated from. And there I did their student-run television station. Won a few APs while I was there. I became their senior producer there my senior year. And that's how I got started within the news business and took it on as my career.
So can you explain to our viewers what you do at Fox 5?
So I am the 6 p.m. news producer. So I produce the 6 p.m. news in the evening. So basically I start my day with a 9 a.m. meeting. There we're gathering our news. We're hearing from our reporters who are pitching stories, going through any news articles we've seen, going through any, like, if we see any like viral clips that have been circulating through social media, press releases that we receive from different police departments in the area. So just gathering news for the day. And then, of course, from there, we assign our reporters to stories. And then I go back to my desk and I start writing the whole 6 p.m. newscast.
Fox 5 News at 6 starts right now.
So every year, it seems like we see more Black female journalists entering the field. What does this representation mean to you?
I think it's very important. I remember when I first got in the news business 9 years ago, one of the first things a fellow Black woman producer told me, she was like, you know, getting in this business, you have to work twice as hard because you are a Black female, you're young. At that time, I was 22 years old. And so she was like, you have to basically prove yourself. And so I hope that I am an inspiration, and I'm hoping that I'm setting a good example for younger women, that you can make it in this business. Your voice is needed. Your voice is heard in the room. And sometimes we don't always feel that way. I know when I was younger, being 22 to 25, I felt, oh, I'm so young and what I say doesn't matter. No, your voice matters. So it's very important to have that representation.
So how do you use your job and resources to promote women?
So I love doing career days. My mom is a school teacher, so I love going back to her school and doing career days and talking to young women. Sometimes when I'm out at the grocery store and I have on my Fox 5 jacket, I've had people stop me there and, speak to me about different things. And it's a different type of career that I feel like not a lot of Black people are shown, A lot of times they say, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, those typical things. But a lot of people aren't well known about, news careers unless they know someone in it. So, yeah, I just love speaking to young women about it.
Have there been any situations in your newscast where you felt like women weren't covered fairly?
Oof. I wouldn't necessarily say not covered fairly, but I would say that kind of sort of like a red flag kind of. So there was one story probably about a year and a half ago. There was a young lady who was at the Atlanta International Airport, and basically she had like an episode of postpartum depression. And one of our reporters pitched in our morning meeting, and the young lady basically, I believe she like drugged her child. Like she had one of those backpacks on that has the leash, and she was dragging her child through the airport. And the reporter basically said like he didn't know what postpartum depression, was after, having children. And so a lot of the women, like, we didn't like, I don't want to use the word attack, but we would kind of sort of just bring awareness like, no, this is a common thing that happens. And he was like, I've never dealt with anyone that, dealt with that. He was an older gentleman. And so we had to like just break down womanhood to him in a way where he kind of understood the mental aspect of being a woman, after pregnancy. So, yeah.
So how do you ensure that women are covered fairly in the news? I know you said that you spoke up about it in a meeting, but how do you make sure they're covered fairly in like a he said, she said story?
Again, speaking up, resources. There are plenty of resources out there for women, whether that's, calling up a resource and asking for advice, whether that's getting an on-camera interview. So it just goes back to resources and using your voice about things.
So who are some women that you look up to?
Ooh, Michelle Obama. I love Michelle Obama. I got to see her a year ago when she came here to Atlanta at the Fox Theater. Very inspirational. Love her story. Love her books. I love Viola Davis. Very big Viola Davis fan. Love her books as well. Who else? I would have to say my mom. My mom is a school teacher. She's been a school teacher ever since I was a little girl. So I grew up going to school with her, learning that career path. She showed me the career with doing, tours at news stations in Memphis before I got to high school. So I kind of sort of already saw like the behind the scenes aspect of it. And I thank her for that. And she's pushed me to where I am today. So yeah, definitely say my mom.
So are there any female journalists who inspired you in your career?
Honestly, anyone I come across. I don't have certain names, but any coworkers I'm working with, any managers I'm working with, they all inspire me to be better. I'm definitely a person that's open to criticism in this business, good and bad. So yeah, anyone that I am working with.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Marquesha, for joining me today and having a wonderful conversation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you to all of the amazing women who are all on the show today. Whether founding groundbreaking companies, creating literature for generations to come, or delivering news, the impact of strong women continues to be seen by our very own alumni. For more information on our programming, please check us out on the web at GHS-TV.org. where we are streaming live 24 hours a day. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Shiloh Sanders, and from all of us at GHS-TV, thank you for watching Crosstalk, and I hope to see you again.